Hi, I'm Nathan, and you're listening to the Queer Conscious Podcast. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of democracy. It's not the end of our existence. At least I don't think it is. It's probably not, but maybe. Who knows? But we felt this kind of collapse before. This is not new for the LGBTQ plus community. Uncertainty, the panic, the scrolling until our eyes hurt. We've also seen it play out in cycles in the 60s, 70s, the 80s for gay marriage. Yet every time it happens, it sort of feels bigger and louder each time. It feels more like an unraveling. Like, again, I thought we've gotten past this. I thought we were good. And if you're paying attention, the news cycles are intense. Our nervous systems are shot. And at this point, we're either doom scrolling ourselves into an existential crisis or we're completely checked out and not paying attention at all. So here's the dilemma. How do we stay informed without completely spiraling? How do we take back our sense of safety when the systems around us seem to be crumbling? And how do we keep fighting without losing ourselves to the chaos and letting that impact our joy, our fulfillment, and our relationships? That's exactly what they want. Our relationships are inherently political. And and if history has taught us anything, it's that queer people, when we unite, we can build unstoppable movements and look really damn good doing it. So if you are ready to embrace the political landscape with a better sense of security, then buckle up and get ready to stare at the bagel right at the center, because we are not looking away, we are going in. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we sort of have these two camps of people right now when it comes to how we're engaging with everything that's happening politically. You have the people in one camp who are completely checked out and they're going to completely not pay attention. And part of me is envious of that. The privilege that you would have to not really have to pay attention to how the news is going to be impacting you. I can admit I'm very privileged living in California, but also to not be connected to communities who are being directly impacted. And, I think there's a plus to that, right? Not letting the chaos of the world get you down. Yeah, don't blame them for wanting to do that. And then there's another camp of people. It feels like this is the end of the world, the apocalypse happening, the world is on fire. And there's pluses and minuses to both ends of the spectrum. And I want to challenge people to get out of their normal way of being and to choose how they want to engage the next 4 years. So, what's happening right now with the political system is that a lot of people have created a sense of safety that is dependent on the government, that it's dependent on the Biden administration's mostly progressive policies. And now that Biden is out of office, because they've attached that sense of security to the political landscape, now there is no sense of security, no sense of safety at all. So imagine having like a blanket swept out from under you and you're just falling. Now, those people have to learn how to create that sense of safety outside of a dependent source, outside of the government itself. And so for some people, that's going to mean creating physical changes in their life. Other people, it's more of a mental and emotional recalibration that needs to happen. I have some trans friends and clients who are moving out of red states into blue states, who are moving into more progressive cities, getting certain documentations in order, getting their surgeries done as fast as they can. And then I even have some gay friends who are getting married and making sure that they get certain documents in order to protect themselves, to protect their relationship. For some people, the threat of job loss is pretty imminent. We might be taking steps towards more financial security, building savings, job security, things like that. There's the potential threat of legislation that could really impact their lives and their relationships. So they want to take advantage of that. And once they do those things, then they're able to take a step back and allow their nervous systems to recalibrate and find that sense of safety. And so for those of us who are living in more blue states, progressive states, the immediate danger isn't quite there in terms of our legal rights. And then when it comes to the emotional mental security, how do we rebuild that? Many of us have been under the impression the political environment is getting more and more progressive. And I think it had been for quite some time, but it's sort of like we're feeling this backlash now. And so we start questioning, are we welcome in certain spaces still, in our jobs, around our families? And so it's recalibrating our sense of belonging and acceptance in this world. And so a lot of that can be done through building community, definitely through the LGBTQ plus community, and finding a sense of community through allies in our workplace and in our families. So as we're scrambling to build the safety, that's where how we engage with politics is either hurting us or harming us. Many of us are building safety by completely pushing the news and the media out. They don't want it to ruin their peace, their mental health. And so they avoid the dissociate and they focus on the pleasantries of life. And then there's another camp who are scrambling for that sense of safety and they are indulging in the media. They are indulging in their anger and their fury. And both of those are totally understandable responses to what's happening. But I find that both of those methods come from an underlying source of trying to reject this reality that we're living in. They don't want to admit that the world we live in is kind of a shit show. So they're either trying to change it and fight against it and say it shouldn't be this way, or they're saying it's not this way. Everything's peace, love, and light. And both of those really deny the reality that what is happening right now is scary, is infuriating, even. There are certain laws that are being put into place the Federal Workforce Restructuring Act, the Executive Powers Enhancement Act, the Election Integrity and Security Act, all of which consolidate more power into the executive branch of government and suppress voters, especially when it comes to minorities and people of color. So that in and of itself is daunting when you think about how it's going to impact our ability to win elections in the future. And then you think about how the legislation is impacting our communities. HIV funding is being threatened to be cut as of the day I'm recording this. You have trans people being banned from sports and from the military. Then, of course, you get the news the next day that the federal judge blocks it. So now you're getting this whiplash. So there are absolutely things that are concerning that can impact our lives and the lives of people that we care about. It's the reality of it. And so I've been rereading this book called When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. And she's a Buddhist philosopher. And in this book, she starts describing that the cycle of things on this earth are that things naturally fall apart and they come back together again. It's happened for thousands and thousands of years, and it's going to continue happening. And right now, it seems like we're in a place again where things are falling apart. And if we trust in the cycle of things, if things do fall apart, we have to trust that they're going to come back together again. So she encourages people to find acceptance in this. And no, not acceptance as in a complacency. Like we just have to accept that this is how it's going to be and not push back against it. But acceptance in that we have to look at what's happening in our world and sit with it. And a lot of us aren't doing the sitting and the feeling. We're resisting the emotions. And when we resist, we sort of create an anxiety, a panic. Or on the other side of it, we create a dissociation and we're living in a Delulu land. So in this book, she says, spiritual awakening is frequently described as a journey to the top of the mountain. We leave our attachments and our confusion behind and finally arrive at the summit. We transcend pain and suffering and we attain joy and wisdom. The only problem with this metaphor is that we leave all the others behind. Our drunken uncle, our schizophrenic sister, our tormented animals and friends, their suffering continues unrelieved by our personal escape, which is how many people engage with spirituality. And there is a benefit to that. I always tell people when they get on an airplane that they have to put on their oxygen mask first before they can help anybody else. And I think there's a truth to that. But what happens in spiritual spaces, especially New Age spaces, is that they get to the top of the mountain and they say, I've arrived. And they forget to engage with the rest of the world because it's deemed as toxic or less than, or that's so below me. I'm not going to engage with any of that. And this is where she drops the real lesson. She says, in this process of discovering bodhicitta, and bodhicitta here refers to the mind of enlightenment, the journey goes down, not up. It's as if the mountain pointed toward the center of the earth instead of reaching into the sky. Instead of transcending the suffering of all creatures, we move toward the turbulence and doubt. We jump into it, we slide into it, we move down and toward the difficulties rather than away from them. Now, hold on. I bet you're thinking, why the hell would we do that? Why would we jump towards the chaos? Because a lot of wellness and spirituality preaches this numbing out, this bypassing. Let me just avoid anything that feels uncomfortable. That's not true spirituality. True spirituality is actually sitting with things with an open heart, with uncomfortable truths and facing it. And a lot of people don't want to do that because when you dive in towards the turbulence, you're faced with one of the scariest things known to man, our own emotions. We're afraid to feel it. If we don't feel and if we're not present with the reality of the world, we miss out on so much wisdom and so much impact that we could be having. And so I tried this, right? I hadn't been sitting with the stillness. I had been sort of reacting to my emotion. And I sat there with it and I let the rage pierce my heart. And it was uncomfortable. It was like a fire completely surrounding my body. I recognized how angry I was, not just at the world for voting the way they voted, but for family and friends who voted in a way that risked my rights, my human rights, for the chance and possibility of more economic success. It was like they sold me out. I was infuriated. And I just let myself feel that. And soon afterwards, that rage and that anger revealed something deeper underneath that. It revealed a sadness and a sadness and a grief for the world, for people who are being directly impacted right now, who are in fear of being deported, for trans people who are unable to access gender affirming care, for people who are losing their jobs. I almost feel like this loss of a world that I thought existed. I thought this world was better than it was. And I was attached to a different reality of that. And so I'm sort of grieving a more progressive, loving world. And at the same time, having to face this world that I'm wanting to push away, I'm wanting to resist, I'm wanting to fight against. And I'm looking at the new world. I don't like it, but it's there. It's in the feeling of these motions that I'm actually inspired to take better action, that I'm inspired to engage in the new world in a new way. It was only allowing myself to experience that rage that I built up the courage to set the boundaries that I needed to in my life, to set boundaries I should have set 10 years ago. It was only in the feeling of the grief and the sadness that I was reminded of how grateful I am to be living in the time I'm living in. I was reminded these moments are precious and I'm going to savor every second of this freedom and liberation that I have as a gay man because I realize it's a privilege. And in the feeling of that grief and sadness and the feeling of that gratitude, I find inspiration, a deeper inspiration to continue fighting and advocating for people to have the queer liberation that I've got to experience the last 5 to 10 years. I want other people to experience that. I want people in red states to have that freedom. I want people around the world to have that. And that's what pisses me off about spirituality. They almost check out from the suffering and the reality of this world and they pretend it doesn't exist because it's toxic. And rather than face it, they detach. But it's only through the facing of the reality of politics that we can actually do what our spirituality calls us to do, which is to love more, which is to advocate more. So if your spirituality does not have politics involved in it, what's the point? To bliss out on a yoga retreat and not have any impact on the world? What good does that do to anyone? And while it's important to face the reality, some people are staring at it and indulging in it. So a lot of people now are getting lost in a media landscape that's built to profit off of your rage and upset. Now, I have a friend who said to me with the most serious face, Nathan, did you hear that RuPaul came out as autism? Now, there are a number of reasons why somebody would be upset at that statement. Grammatically, I was infuriated. Factually, I was terrified because no, they did not. What are you talking about? I thought they were joking. I really did. I was hoping they were joking, but they showed me the headline of the article. So we look it up, which is what you should do when people tell you things and you're like, that's bullshit. You should say, hey, where did you hear that? I want to look at the source. So I read the headline. It said RuPaul's Drag Race season 17 star opens up about autism diagnosis. It's part of who I am. The article was referring to season 17 star Hormona Lisa, who opened up about the autism diagnosis. For whatever reason, my friend read this headline and thought RuPaul came out as autism, not as autistic, right, which is what one would normally say, but as autism itself. And then they just repeated it to me. And the crazy thing is, this is a very smart, successful friend. And so I was just astonished. And I think it's a reminder that even the smartest people can be susceptible to misinformation and need better media literacy. We could all use better media literacy. I've fallen for this trap too. I've fallen for clickbait articles where they misrepresent statistics about what's happening and it amplifies and it makes it even more dramatic so that we get riled up, right? And not that there aren't already a lot of things to be pissed off about, but why increase it? Even if 25% of our rage and anger was because we were reading headlines wrong or were not taking into consideration the context of how they're presenting this information. If we could reduce that by 25%, that would be amazing. Imagine what you could do with all that energy. So we need to start asking ourselves, what is the context of the headlines we're reading? What is the source of it? And so we have to be super careful about the way that we engage with social media. Not to mention, what is it doing to our mental health? Doom scrolling impacts our stress. It impacts our sleep negatively. It impacts our self-esteem. And what's that going to do to our movement, to our cause? Right? That's what they want in the first place. Right? The whole point of all those executive orders on day one was to actually infiltrate the system with all this news that we couldn't pay attention to what was actually happening underneath. Right? It's designed to get us riled up. And then what happens? Of course, we have checks and balances. Federal judges came in and blocked a lot of these executive orders. So it's like, what were we really worrying about in the first place? And so it's just this back and forth. And so we have to be able to manage and regulate our nervous systems so that we don't fall into this trap. Again, social media is designed to profit off of our rage. It's designed to profit off of our emotion. So every time that you fall for this rage bait and this clickbait, you are helping a CEO take a vacation to fucking Tahiti. So we have to consume media in a healthy way. That means unfollowing accounts that are just not helpful, consuming news media from just the few trusted sources that you have, asking questions every time you read headlines. I've been charging my phone away from my bed so that I don't wake up in the middle of the night and start scrolling, because that's happened before. And if you do that, just watch how your relationship with news and media changes. Okay. We don't need to be reacting immediately to this news, right? Especially if it's that important, we will know, right? Your friends will all tell you. The other thing, it's not just the way that we consume media, but the way that we produce content. And I hate to break it to you, but reposting a political post to the 50 followers who already believe what you believe is not the activism that you think it is. Now, should we be using our platforms to share political information to our audiences? Yes. And should we be contributing to the online discourse and dispelling misinformation? Yes, absolutely do that. But we have to remember that real activism is about creating meaningful and effective action that contributes to challenging the status quo, that educates beyond our bubble, beyond our echo chambers, and contributes to tangible change. But a lot of times we're just reposting things that don't really do anything but validate our own egos and make us feel like we're doing something and we're not. So I'm not saying don't post, but what I am saying is question how your posts are going to impact your community. Are you doing it to educate people, to challenge people on an issue, to dispel misinformation, to change people's minds? Or what a lot of people are using social media to do is to virtue signal that they are a good person, or just to piss off their grandma because they're upset that she voted for Trump. And that's just self-serving. The next thing that we need to do in this political landscape is choose a lane, right? Some of us are meant to be on social media and have really great communication skills, and that's our calling. Then great. Choose that and do that. But that's not everybody's calling. And we don't need to shame people who are not good with social media or have no interest in that. Right. But everybody has a lane. Everyone has something that they're good at and a way of being able to contribute to what's happening right now in their own way. It could be through community organizing, volunteering. I don't know. There are so many different ways to be helping out right now. But what I find is that when you get into an activist mindset, I've actually coached a lot of people out of unhealthy habits because it feeds into this self-sacrificing mentality and that they have to be in every single lane all at once. And they spread themselves so thin that they become ineffective. We need you. You are important. We need you to be part of this movement as your best, healthiest, most effective self. And what good are you if you keep pouring out all your energy to every single cause that you possibly can and there's nothing left of you? Choose a lane. Because what we know from the compound effect is that small, consistent actions creates huge impacts. All of you know this. The more that you stick to something, the better you get at it. When I first started going to the gym, like 5 years ago, I couldn't even do a pull up. And so I had to use the assist bar. And slowly but surely, I could do 10 pull ups in a row. But that took time, right? That took time and consistency. I had to stick to it. So choose a lane and stick with it. And you're going to find that you're going to have a lot more impact in the world. And lastly, here, we got to lean on community. Community is everything right now. And part of it is just that you need to get outside and touch some grass. I think a lot of people are losing it right now. And when we start to embrace our communities, the world's going to seem a little less scary, especially when we're surrounded by positive, uplifting communities. We're reminded of the strength of our social justice movements. But even when you engage in communities that aren't politically aligned with you, you're also reminded of the kindness of strangers. You're reminded, oh, they're not terrible, evil people. Maybe they're just misinformed. So lean on your communities, build community, and it's okay to set boundaries with people that you don't want to be around. I've clearly told my family that I do not want to be in certain environments with them, but I'm like, I will spend time with you in these environments. I will not engage with you in political discussions. Or on the other hand, with my parents, I said, if we are going to have a relationship, we need to have these political discussions so that I know I want to have a relationship with you guys. And that's helped our relationship tremendously to be able to have those discussions. Again, it's my queer communities that have really been the best support systems. And I encourage you, if you don't have them, build them. Now, the last thing I'm going to say on this is that I think a lot of queer people are forgetting the resilience and strength of our queer ancestors. And we need to toughen up. Like, we really do. A lot of us are freaking out and just surrendering. And it's embarrassing. Are you kidding me? Like, Marsha P. Johnson did not play the role in activism that she played for nothing. Think about all that she went through back then. Harvey Milk did not get assassinated for nothing. Think about him being one of the first LGBTQ politicians out and open, how radical that was, right? Freddie Hirsch, who was in Auschwitz, he created a space within Auschwitz where children felt safe. And he told them that hygiene and exercise are a source of our defiance. We have to take care of ourselves. And in that, we are fighting back by being healthy, by taking care of ourselves. And so you look at all of these people, what they've gone through and what we're going through. And comparatively, we gotta we gotta step up. I think the part where that we resist is around resilience is that we're sort of forced into resilience. We have no choice but to be better, more resilient people. It's like a survival thing. Um, but as we navigate these uncertain times, remember them. Remember where we came from. Remember all the strength of our communities and that united, we can really create a movement that is unstoppable. Look how far we've come. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. And it's hard because things are so confusing and uncertain right now, it's hard to stay motivated. But Greta Thunberg said this around climate change: we must lay the foundation while we may not know exactly how to build the ceiling. In other words, it's going to take cathedral thinking. We have to accept we may not be around to see the cathedral all built with the painted ceilings and the stained glass windows and the beautiful garden. But if If I can plan out the garden and trust that someday queer and trans kids are going to be able to play in that free to be themselves, that's enough for me to take that action that I need to take today. And I hope it's enough for you. Okay, and last but not least, I just want to tell you guys, enjoy your fucking lives. No, truly. Don't disappoint your gay ancestors by not enjoying the life that you have, okay? As Dan Savage said, during the darkest days of the AIDS crisis, we buried our friends in the morning. We protested in the afternoon and we danced all night. The dance kept us in the fight because it was the dance we were fighting for. It didn't look like we were going to win then, and we did. It doesn't look like we're going to win now, but we could. Keep fighting, keep dancing. I'm gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club. Okay. Take the mic away from me. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the Queer Conscious Podcast, where we explore how love feeds us, heals us, and gives us life. I'm your host and queer love coach, Nathan Serrato. But remember that the conversations that we're having here today are not a replacement for working with a licensed therapist, professional coach, or mental health practitioner. These conversations are for entertainment and education purposes only. But if you are dealing with some big challenges and you're thinking about seeking some professional support, it is one of the most empowering things that you can do for yourself. You can visit queerconscious.com for more information on how to do that. Now, if you love today's episodes and you want more episodes like this, I need your help. Please leave a 5-star rating and review. That's going to help me to bring you more high-quality content and interviews. So until then, take care of yourself and don't forget to let love in.